Introduction. The apocalypse is everywhere. From zombie outbreaks to nuclear wastelands, from climate collapse to alien invasions, humans keep imagining the end of the world. But here's the strange part: we don't just fear it, we romanticize it. We fantasize about deserted highways, about being one of the last survivors, about starting fresh in ruins. Movies show us quiet cities swallowed by nature. Games invite us to rebuild after disaster. Books whisper of new beginnings after collapse. It's destruction, dressed as liberation. So, why do we do this? Why are we drawn not just to the terror of the end, but to the beauty of it? Chapter 1: The Psychology of Collapse. At its core, the apocalypse offers something we crave: relief from complexity. Modern life is overwhelming: bills, deadlines, notifications, constant noise. Every day feels like juggling 100 responsibilities while sprinting forward. In our imaginations, the apocalypse wipes the slate clean. Psychologists call this escapism through annihilation, the fantasy that disaster could free us from the grind. Think about zombie stories like The Walking Dead. The zombies aren't really the point. The real appeal is stripping life down to its bare bones: food, shelter, trust. Decisions feel simpler when survival is the only priority. In that sense, the apocalypse isn't just an end, it's kind of a relief. Chapter 2: The Allure of Reset. Beyond relief, the apocalypse functions as a fantasy of rebirth. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote about eternal reoccurrence, the idea that life repeats itself in cycles, always returning to beginnings. The apocalypse is our modern myth of reoccurrence. Everything collapses and then something new arises. Stories like The Station 11 and The Last of Us aren't really about catastrophe, they're about what comes after, about finding beauty in ruins, about the possibility that once the old systems fail, we might rebuild differently, maybe even better. The fantasy here isn't the destruction for its own sake, it's liberation. The end of capitalism, deadlines, social media feeds, the end of feeling small in an overcrowded world. The apocalypse whispers, what if you could start over from zero? Chapter 3: Community After Collapse. Paradoxically, the apocalypse often feels more human than the world we live in now. In post apocalyptic stories, survival isn't about the nations or corporations, it's about small groups, chosen families, trust forged through crisis. The Road by Cormac McCarthy is one of the bleakest novels ever written. Ash covered landscapes, starvation, brutality, and yet at its core, it's about a father and son, about love carrying them forward when everything else has ended. This is a strange romance of collapse. It narrows our focus without global chaos. We imagine a return to intimacy, to knowing our neighbors, to belonging not to a faceless system, but to a small, loyal circle. When we imagine the end of the world, we imagine finally finding the community the current one denies us. Chapter 4: There's something hauntingly beautiful about ruins: abandoned malls, empty freeways, skyscrapers swallowed by vines. There's even a name for it: ruin prawn, the word that I can't say. Pornography. There's even a name for it: ruin porn. Photographers seek out deserted factories, ghost towns, hollowed churches. The images are eerie but also serene. In art history, it connects to the concept of sublime beauty found not in perfection but in vastness, in destruction, in awe. Standing in front of ruins makes us feel small, but also strange. Post apocalyptic fiction taps into this aesthetic. The Last of Us isn't just a survival story, it's a love letter to ruin: giraffes wandering around empty cities, flowers blooming through cracked highways. The end of the world becomes a gallery of beauty, fragile, fleeting, but unforgettable. Chapter 5: The Ego and the End. On a deeper level, the apocalypse speaks to ego. So many apocalypse fantasies are survival fantasies. We imagine being the last one standing, the main character in a world where everyone else is gone. This is the ego's dream. If the world ends, I'll be the only one who matters. The apocalypse centers us. It strips away the billions of others and leaves us, the survivor, the chosen. Pop culture feeds this: Mad Max, The Hunger Games, countless survival games. Each invites us to picture ourselves not as the crushed victim of collapse, but as the hero who endures. In reality, apocalypse would only likely mean suffering, starvation, and death. But the fantasy edits out the horror and leaves the ego intact. In the ruins, we imagine finally being important. Chapter 6: Real World Parallels. But this isn't just fiction. Humans have always romanticized endings. Religious traditions imagined apocalypse as divine closure. Revelation promised the final judgment. Norse mythology envisioned Ragnarok, a fiery collapse followed by renewal. The Mayans were misinterpreted as predicting 2012 as the end of the world. These myths gave meaning to chaos. They reframed suffering as part of the story. Things weren't just falling apart, they were moving towards an ending. Today, climate change and nuclear anxiety play the same role. We live with a low level awareness that collapse might come, and even then, people fantasize about what comes after, about survival, about rebuilding, about clarity. The end of the world isn't just destruction, it's narrative, and narratives make life bearable. Conclusion: maybe we romanticize the end of the world because we're already overwhelmed with the one we have. In ruins, we imagine freedom. In collapse, we imagine clarity. In destruction, we imagine rebirth. The apocalypse is terrifying, yes, but it's also seductive. It reflects our exhaustion with complexity, our longing for community, our fascination with beauty and decay. So maybe the real question isn't why we romanticize the end of the world. Maybe it's, what does that fantasy say about the world we're already living in?